meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public notice of this meeting. I'm sorry, Joyce.
Mayor Calvadas.
Here.
Mr. Kapadas.
Here.
Mrs. Casio. Here. Mrs. Moore.
Yes.
Mr. White.
Here.
Mrs. Kelly. Here. Mr. Root.
Here.
Ms. Pondish. Present. Mr. Bach.
Here.
And Mr. Ray.
Here.
Public notice of this meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meeting Act has been given by the clerk in the following manner. 1, posted on the bulletin board in the Borough Clerk's office on January 7, 2013. 2, emailed to the Red Dispatch and the clerk posted on January 7, 2013. The motion is in order for the approval of minutes from 4:30, 5:07, and 5:15 meeting.
I so move.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. The reports, Joyce.
I have reported the construction official for the month of May. A total of $10,296 was collected for various permits and COs. All monies were turned over to the treasurer. I have the report of the borough clerk for the month of May. A total of $7,478.60 was collected for various permits, licenses, including pet licenses. All monies were turned over to the treasurer. We have the report of the Registrar of Vital Statistics for the month of May. A total of $2,841 was collected for various death copies, burial permits, and marriage licenses and copies. All monies were turned over to the treasurer. With the report of the fire marshal for the month of May, a total of $2,469 was collected in fire fees. There were 77 inspections completed, 157 incidents this month, and 2 Type 1 permits issued. The emergency medical services billing for the month was $26,588.05. All monies were turned over to the treasurer. We have the report of the police chief for the month of May. A total of $184.45 was collected for various accident, discovery reports, discovery, solicitor reports, over requests, and firearm permits. All monies were turned over to the treasurer. We have the report of the tax collector for the month of May. A total of $2,990,505.15 was collected in taxes, and in sewer, $22,509.97. They're all reports.
Have a motion.
I make a motion. I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Communications. The first letter is from Jim and Brenda Off, thanking the Runnemede Police Department for all that they did. And will you read the second? The second one is from Ms. Maji and the Bolton Choir, thanking the borough for allowing the choir to perform at the Cambridge River Show.
Can I have a motion on this? Communications.
I so move. I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We now have a public hearing for ordinance 1308, which is an ordinance amending ordinance 12-04, schedule of fees established for the summer recreation program. This portion of the meeting is open to the public. Anyone wishing to speak on this ordinance and this ordinance only may step up to the microphone and give their name and address.
Seeing no one, I make a motion that we close the public portion.
Can I have a roll call?
Need a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor to close the public.
Clerk? Yeah.
All those in favor to close the public portion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
public portion is closed. I make a motion to adopt ordinance 1308, changing the fees for the summer recreation program.
I second.
And make a motion to adopt on second and final reading and advertise according to law.
Mrs. Kelly.
Second.
Yes.
Committee reports.
Need a roll call.
Roll call.
Mrs. Passio?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Root?
Yes.
And Mr. Capano?
Yes.
6 ayes.
I move that this resolution be adopted. Committee reports. Finance, personnel, and administration.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to report that, there's a few things on the agenda I just want to make clear. We have an ordinance 1380, resolution 1389. I'm going to ask the council to table that for this month. This was the resolution adjusting the salary ranges for the borough clerk, chief financial officer, and the tax assessor, and the tax collector. It was brought to my attention, both the Public Works Director, Ms. Moore, and the Public Safety Director, Mrs. Kelly, would like to also speak to those departments. We have some committee meetings that are going to happen this month, and we could bring this up as old business next month after we get that information. Also, I'd like to make a note that there's an ordinance on for first reading. This is something that we've discussed, but it wasn't clarified. Ordinance 1314 is the Clean Communities Coordinator, Municipal Alliance Coordinator, and the account clerk. Mr. Wright can go a little bit more detail on the account clerk. We had a retirement that's happening at the end of the month, so we have to post this position. We have to create this position, start creating it this evening, and then set a salary range for the position. The Clean Communities Coordinator, this was what we had spoke about in caucus. This allows for us to compensate the coordinator based on the program standards, and also municipal alliance coordinator. So both will be compensated what's allowed by the program. So that's why you'll see there's a salary range on there, because it depends on the amount of money that the borough gets each year. And then there's also also establishes that both the municipal alliance coordinator and the clean communities coordinators will report to certain members of the council. So clean communities will report to the director of public works, and the municipal alliance coordinator will report to the public safety. This was spoken about both committees. Other than that, I'm going to rely on Mr. Wright and his report for finance. So we're in the process of our budget. There's a few other items on here, and I'll allow him to do that. Other than that, I'll report progress.
Health, education, and welfare, Mr. White.
Next week, I had the opportunity to go to Triton and give out an award from the borough for graduation. It was like a scholarship on the borough gave. I gave that out on those last, I think it was Wednesday night. And other than that, progress.
Public safety, Eleanor.
Thank you, Mayor. The DARE program had their graduation, and it was held at both St. Teresa's School and Bolt School. And kudos to Officers Burns, Wark, and Robinson for doing a great job presenting this program each year to the 5th graders. Our National Night Out is scheduled for August 6th, so save the date. It's going to be at the Harry Williams Building, and there'll be a lot of free food and free stuff given out. The committee will be meeting during the week of June 17th to discuss the purchase of 2 new Dodge Chargers and the auction of the old cars. And we're in the process of purchasing the new software for the police department, and the final figures for the cost of installation are being provided to council. And we're waiting for those final figures, and I believe they are in the resolution tonight, the 33,000.
Not exactly sure.
Not exactly sure. Okay. The fire department, the committee met and discussed the purchase of the Quint The Quint is basically an engine with a ladder. It's a very flexible fire apparatus, and it will be put to good use in the fire department. We're purchasing it in 2014, and the chiefs have set up, that when I say the chiefs, I mean Deputy Chief Laverty and Chief Moriarty have set up a committee to meet with the various vendors, to look at the various Quints that are on the market, and to purchase one that is suitable for our town. The vehicle will be rear-mounted ladder with a stick, and that means it's not going to have a basket at the end of the ladder, and the ladder is fully hosed. For your information, it will be probably the most used vehicle that we will be putting out into any incident that might happen. We're looking forward to seeing it. A demo is going to be here for the day within the next couple weeks. So I urge everyone to keep an eye out for that. We'll put it on the website when we know it's coming. Come and look at it. It's an amazing, amazing fire apparatus. And the fire company had their first annual classic car show. And Councilwoman Passio and I viewed over 67 cars that were on display. It was an amazing show. And they made a nice bit of profit on it. So for next year, it's going to be even bigger and better. So look for it in the end of May of next year. And I just wanted to make a comment, if I may, on the emergency medical services billing. Each month, we report that there's 26,000, 24,000, 28,000 brought in on medical billing. So far this year, $150,000 has been brought in for our 2 ambulances. And I have to give our EMS people a lot of credit. They make a lot of runs. They are there 24/7, fully staffed. We are very fortunate to have this group of men and women working so diligently for our town. Other than that, I have progress, Mayor.
Thank you, Eleanor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. On public events, on Youth Mayor and Council, our future from Mary Bolts and St. Teresa's, these students amazed me. They were very funny, respectful, and intelligent. The week was filled with excitement and made me remember what youth is all about. They sat up here in council and had mock meetings on opening and closing night. We went to our state capitol in Trenton. We went to Washington, D.C. We had pizza with the senator. And our final night, after our closing meeting, the students were given plaques and had many pictures taken. And off we went to end with a celebration at the Philly Diner. There were so many people to thank. I want to thank the parents, the grandparents, the teachers who believed in them, my committee, Eleanor Kelly and Mike Root, my chaperones, my bus driver, our council, and Mayor Siss. And also to Dan Connard, who wrote a beautiful article on our youth mayor and council that was in the Gloucester City News last week. And last but not least, the students who took the challenge and wrote those great essays. On Memorial Day, I want to report that Memorial Day turned out to be a beautiful day to honor our veterans. The weather was beautiful, our grounds were beautiful, thanks to Public Works. Thank you to all who participated and to all who helped me make this Memorial Day very memorable. It was an honor for me and my committee to put together this day to honor all our veterans. Again, many thanks. Coming up is Flag Day on Friday, June 14th, and that will be held at the VFW at 6:30 p.m. So if you have any old or torn or tattered flags, please bring them to the VFW no later than Thursday night, and I'll have that posted on our website. The 4th of July parade will be on Thursday, July 4th, and the parade will begin at 1 p.m. sharp. Bicycle and baby parade will begin at 9 a.m. at the Harry Williams Building Grounds. If you want to participate in the 4th of July parade, please call me at 856-466-5133. On engineering, there's so much to report, so I'm going to turn that over to Steve, our engineer, at his reporting. This concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Beverly?
Thanks, Mayor.
Full thumbs.
Okay, well, in case anybody didn't notice, we've got a new fence around the Borough Hall, so that is a huge thing. That was an undertaking that happened between yesterday and they finished it up today, and it looks fantastic. So that is a wonderful addition to the town overall. It definitely replaces that much worn wooden fence. I'm happy to report they are putting the swale in down at the Public Works Department. The CCMUA was starting that today. That's in place in case there is another issue with the pumping station. When it does overflow, it has a tendency to flood out the Public Works Department. So they are actively pursuing that. I don't know if they finished it today, but I know that they did start it today. They also, the sewer line down at Beaver Branch for everything that needs to be done down there was being worked on today. Again, I spoke to John late in the day. I'm not quite sure if it got completed today, but I know that they were connecting it as of today. We are working on a new bus schedule. I spoke with the Public Works Department, and we are trying to get a little more set in stone schedule instead of the kind of nilly-willy that it kind of just went wherever it went on whatever day it was. The grass cutting's continuing. We've got approximately, from when I spoke to John, between John and Keith Knight, we've got approximately 50 houses in town that are going to have to be maintained because they're vacant and they're not being taken care of. Keith is actively pursuing citing them, but unfortunately, if they're in the hands of the bank or a realtor, they're not really getting very far with it. So Public Works is maintaining those properties. Other than that, I will report progress.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike, Park and Recreation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you may have heard, Summer Rec is now 6 weeks long. That starts on July 1st to August 9th, where we are taking registrations for Summer Rec for the citizens of Runnemede. That's being held at the Borough Hall from 9 to 4. You come in and fill out your registration for your sons and daughters. What you need proof of an address and their report card, or proof of them going to school in Runnemede. I have been interviewing counselors and taking applications for the junior counselors. Ms. Maggi agreed to continue the music program during the summer rec, so that's good news. Everything's moving smooth with that, and I am on the final, starting to finalize the Harry Williams building scheduling, and we also are agreeing with the person to run the opening, close, and to run that, be pretty much organize the Harry Williams building with myself and Joyce, and we're on the final, getting ready to finalize that. So we'll have all that ready for the beginning of the fall when the Harry Williams building is at its most popular. And then the rest is progress.
Thank you.
If I could, the policy for the Harry Williams building, is that an ordinance or a resolution maintaining fees? That would be an ordinance, because it's dealing with money. Should we do a first reading for that now? Rich, do you have any comment on this? The committee is looking at the use of the building. It might entail changing the fees, which we talked about last year. To get that, I think what you're talking about is people are getting ready to start scheduling for next year.
Right.
And to start scheduling, we're going to have those fees set. Is that something we can just read by title only tonight and then iron out the policy? Well, what do you think? I mean, is it, do you have some of the recommendation at this point, or is that too much to bring up?
I do have.
Changing all of these for next year.
Yes. People are starting, they want to start scheduling, if I'm correct, they're starting to call, to schedule.
You're actually going to have to do, if you're going to be changing your fees, you're going to want to do that by ordinance.
By ordinance.
And you're going to have to advertise before second reading, so you're going to have these ready to be published.
I think the committee has a general idea, at least the fees.
We're ready to go tonight, put that on.
Okay, I mean, as long, but how do we let the people know who are trying to book right now what the costs are? Can we give them an idea?
Sit tight for a couple weeks.
You can.
Yes. Okay, you okay with that? Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I know that a couple people came in and
Right,
started
I mean,
scheduling.
basically, we had two groups that, they call the office, so we're familiar with.
Yes.
Come in, and we basically have let them know that we're in the process of beginning that, and basically told them that we'll let them know.
Well, can we at least allow them to at least book the days, and then we'll just let them know that the fees are going to adjust? Is that something we could do? Yeah, and then let them know the fees are changing.
Right. There's going to be a whole process that we're going to have to fill out.
Yeah.
We're going to have the insurance, we're going to have to.
Yeah, that's not going to change. I think just the fees are going to change. There's with the borough requires insurance and things like that.
And that's going to be within the code, correct?
That's already in the code in current.
Right, but I mean, when you're changing the fees, it's going to be part.
Yes, it'll be a new part of
It's
that.
essentially amending the code.
Okay. Maybe we can at least step in the book everything. And, we just have to get it done for next month. Because we need 2 months to get it done, you know, I
I
think.
mean, I don't think there's a problem with us telling them what the tentative fees will be.
Okay.
$325 for X period of time, you know, we can let them know that's what the pending matter is, probably that, at least they're aware, and then they can be given the option of what the date.
All right, thank you.
Mitch? It's your cue.
Okay, no problem.
Put the mic in front of your voice.
Absolutely. All right, a couple of items on the budget follow-up. It's been a very busy week, and we have not been able to coordinate with the IT guy to put a spreadsheet out there. You know, we said that will happen shortly. We just haven't been able to get that out there yet. Referring to putting the spreadsheet that somebody can put in their assessment from last year and their assessment from this year, and then it would tell them the difference between the two. So that will be coming shortly. With regards to amendments that are going to be required, we have 2 major grants that are pending. One of them that would actually have an impact on the budget and the capital budget for the fire department. We're like expecting the congressman's office to call us any day now, so we're waiting on that, and hopefully we'll be reporting on that at the next council meeting. So those 2 items, which will impact the budget, are going to require an amendment. The fences came in under budget, since it's tied to the budget. It was included in the 2012 capital plan with an estimate of about $16,500, and it came in at $10,500. So that worked out well. I walked it today, it looks much better. And I can tell you that the reason the priority was put on that is because we got a knock on the door and someone said, you might want to go outside, your fence is laying on the sidewalks. So about 2 months ago, a big section of fence just actually blew over in a windstorm, so it was long overdue. So basically, we're happy to see that. With regards to the police department and their new computer system, there's a 2-part process to this. The first part is the servers, because it's going to be a joint server with multiple municipalities, is going to be hosted and maintained by the Borough of Belmar. That's the purpose of the interlocal agreement. Our share at this point in time is $6,000, but if another person joins on, that could make the average go down and we pay less. In addition to the amount that goes to the Borough of Belmar, there's also a software licensing requirement with a separate vendor that will also come before council under a separate purchase for us. The quote that I have on that, and it's a state contract, is for $22,000, and it has an annual maintenance fee starting next year for $3,300 per year. So that would be the actual cost on our side of it. And that's ballpark of what we were estimating. The chief was estimating that if we did it ourselves, that we'd be around $30,000 to $40,000. So we're in that ballpark. So that takes care of the budget items. I can tell you that the ordinance 13-14, I mentioned when we discussed the interlocal with Barrington for payroll services, that was also going to require a body in the finance office. The position that we're using is account clerk, and it's actually spec number 00001 for civil service. It's more flexible than just something specific to payroll. And the previous person that we had doing it had multiple hats, and basically, I think that this, for an entry-level position, covered most of those with regards to the day-to-day needs of the office. The person would be cross-training across the board. It does allow for involvement in payroll if they have that skill set, and we use them for anything on our side of the fence. It also deals with purchase orders, invoices, requisitions, filing, things of that nature. So basically, it gives us a person that can basically cover all the spots since we do cross-train our employees. I do have a copy. Once we get to second reading, this will be posted, and it will also be advertised, and then we'll take the resumes and applications for the position. So this is the process. It's also what we reported to the regional union rep with regard to this process. So I think the other items, questions probably come up as we go through resolutions, so I will just answer them as they come up. Thank you.
Mr. Bott, engineer.
engineering committee, I believe we announced last month that we were fortunate enough to receive a $20,000 grant from the NJDOT. We have provided a proposal for scope of work for the engineering committee. They asked me to bring it up this evening to see if we could just get an informal acceptance of that scope of work and we'll proceed. We really have to hit the ground if we want to get this bid and installed by the fall. So we just want to ask if there's any objections to that. Objections, going on to the next item. Baseball field improvements. We've been discussing this for a few months. These are for the short-term improvements, which is handicap parking, sidewalk, trash enclosure. We provided a scope of work specific, provided that to the engineering committee, and they asked me to bring it up to the full body to see if there's any objection for us proceeding on getting those plans together so we get those improvements done, hopefully before the start of school. So
What's the deep dive or not?
there's a proposal as part of your
Yeah,
package.
what do you think?
Specifically, fence replacement along the dugouts. I'm sorry. Handicap parking adjacent to the existing snack stand, handicap sidewalk leading from the handicap parking to bring people into the field, fence replacement and some sidewalk replacement. That's only the short-term stuff right now. This is all behind the wall area. I think we brought it up at the community meeting.
Yeah,
Maybe it was before you got to this committee meeting.
I was there, but I wasn't sure.
Okay. And this is only the short-term stuff that we've been talking about for several months, just to get us, get a survey plan, get it done, and get it out there. Now, with this being done, then I can get that work going and then proceed with the long-term planning that we've been discussing for a while. I just want to bring this up and get short-term done first and then go for the long-term, which we were talking about relocating the field and some other.
So you're looking for a resolution for the DOT approval, a resolution, or
I
you're
don't
just looking
even
for
need a resolution, I just need
verbal okay to go
verbal
for
okay. is fine.
for DOT and this?
Verbal okay with you?
Well, for the
Okay.
$8,100, you need resolution for that.
You need a resolution?
Well, generally, we don't always get a resolution. We always provide you our upfront effort, so there's no surprises, but we're appointing that here as your engineer based on us as the fees. So, resolution required.
Resolution, okay.
That's fine.
So we can do 1395 for the DOT approval, and then 1396 to proceed with the sidewalks, handwalks.
Short-term.
Short-term, yeah.
Improvement.
Okay.
And I'll quickly go through a couple other items. The Borough Hall electric generator, we received all the electric bills. We were able to compile that. We're providing options. Option A is going to be the entire building and what that would entail in terms of the size of the generator and KW. And then we'll be breaking that down in terms of what would be an affordable generator, how much you could power up. It's important to note that if you generally power up the entire building, you do not have to do a lot of electrical modifications inside the building. All you have to do is do an exterior transfer. But once you start segmenting sections of the building, then you're going to actually have to do internal electrical work to actually be able to have multiple transfer switches. So we're going to provide both of that for those other considerations. Borough Hall ADA access, we are as-built the interior floor plan. This is for the consideration of how do we get people up to the second floor that's currently under renovation from the clerk's area. Generally, it's going to be an exterior elevator. We're looking to provide you with a phased approach. Phase one would be just the elevator to get from first floor to second floor. The second one is how do we link this area of the building, which is different in elevation, approximately 4 feet. How do we get people from the clerk's area, in front of the building, to this area without having to go outside to go around the building? So we want to proceed getting the ADA access to the second floor, which is required, but also do that in a manner where you can add on to it in the future and provide that full access. Green Avenue, you've seen on your agenda, which is to be awarded to Lambert Construction, amount of $23,909.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Elevator, is it required to have it if it's not accessible to the public? Is it necessary necessary to have it be?
It's my understanding that there's going to be meeting rooms for members of governing body where they will have public coming up to it. And we don't use it, right now, we're not using it at all.
Right,
Nothing's required.
correct.
If you start using them for governmental offices, and you have any member of the public coming up there, you must have ADA access.
If it's,
But if it's not.
if it's employees, or if it's just employees, is that a gray area?
That is a gray area.
Still a gray area, especially if it was.
You do have a separate accommodation. However, if you would require an employee to report to a member of council in their office on that second floor, then you don't have a separate accommodation. So, I mean, it really has to be, what do you really want to use that for?
Okay, thanks.
The other gray area is, right now, are you going to have a alternate office for member of councils on the first floor? Richard, if you don't have that alternate office area, then you don't have.
Well, the point is I think that upstairs is almost 5,000 square feet. So there's uses, a lot more uses than just a meeting. And then, like you said, the second point is how do you even access downstairs from here? You're right, it's over 4 foot of a drop. I don't know the answers to all these things, and
That's why we're bringing you the options of what the cost would be
Yeah.
provided.
and this all started with the door that's leaking. That we still have to figure out.
Yeah, that we still have to fix.
Well, we're holding off on the door because the area generally will be where the elevator could most likely
possibly
go. It would be in that general area. The other thing I just want to point out, and I've been involved many municipalities in terms of accessibility of these years because everything has evolved so much in the last 20 years. The separate accommodation, I don't want to call it argument, but the proof is very, very difficult to be made, especially when someone is making a complaint. Is it really separate and equal accommodation? So typically, the rulings that always come back in other towns are, no, it's not really equal. So I just want to point that out. So I will bring more detail on that when I have the cost, so you can have a little bit more discussion. Obviously, I bring it through engineering committee and also through caucus. Yes. Secondary egress will be required unless we put sprinklers, we're not putting sprinklers in. There is an existing, fire escape that is obviously antiquated, going out from, I believe, I don't know whose office that is. It's one of the emergency management office. So that would have to be removed, and an exterior fire escape would be required. With that. Obviously, that's all part of this whole package that we have to provide you the options. Other than that, everything else is included in our report, unless anybody has any specific questions about any projects that are ongoing.
Garage, where we have,
We have received a proposal from the LSRP that we've been working with. The proposal seemed rather extensive, and it was the deal's cost. We're getting a secondary proposal for the borough, just so they can compare apples to apples before we engage in what is going to be a very intensive and expensive undertaking.
how long do we have to act on this?
We still have time. We're in compliance right now, but we will have to probably make a decision within the next 3 to 4 months in terms of who we
We're
use for the test.
going to have to start working on it next year.
We probably have to start doing testing towards the end of this year. Probably in the fall, you're going to have to authorize for the testing portion of it, which is required under the remedial program, LSRP program.
So, now, if you do testing next year, you have to start acting on it.
I believe, and I do not have the dates on the report back, but I believe that as long as we report and do the testing, that we do have a little bit of time, I can't say how many years, before you actually have to implement the actual remediation.
And who's doing the testing?
That's, there is a firm that we brought into the borough, and we received a proposal for a licensed remediation professional. So they did the initial retention form and receptor evaluation. So we always ask for a number, so we can bring it before the borough governing body. The number we received for this round of testing was sizable and very extensive. I want a second number before I bring it to.
And who's the company?
Environmental Resolution Inc. Very good company, nothing wrong with environmental resolution. I actually
I know the family.
and I have them in several of my accounts. I just want to make sure I have an apple to apple for everybody. And it's going to be a very long process. I just want to make sure we can start it out correctly.
Their total cost was $39,000?
Yeah.
I have a copy of it, if you would like to see it. Yeah, go ahead.
I believe we provided to everybody several months ago, but $40,000. So I just want to make sure this is $40,000 that is equal. My experience with LSRPs, there are many different opinions in terms of what is required for the testing to accommodate what the state is looking for. I just want to make sure we're getting.
When was this discovered that we had to remediate? Was it known right from the start?
I can tell you I've been here for 12 years,
Yeah.
and it's been 12 years.
Okay.
I have knowledge of
Over,
it.
it said,
Yeah, this has always been an ongoing problem. The state has not forced the borough to do the remediation because it has not reached that level or that standard. But with the new LSRP program, which is not new, it's not 2.5 years old, they are systematically requiring all property owners of contaminated sites, even if it's slightly contaminated, to clean up their site, or you pay a fee every year. And that is sort of you pay the fee every year for being on the books. And then eventually we'll have a compliance schedule they can do. Some of the compliance schedules are 10 years out, but each year they're collecting anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 from the property owners of each contaminated site. So they have come up with a program, and I would have to say most municipalities are now saying, all right, we're not getting fined, but we're paying $5,000 a year, or we're paying $10,000 a year. It's time to do it, because otherwise, you're gonna do it eventually. Are you gonna do it
So this 40,000, that's for the initial testing that was
Yeah.
done.
additional,
It's not-
additional
It's the
testing?
second.
Additional.
We've had initial testing, we know what the contaminants are, and we know,
And do you have any idea what it's going to cost us?
I didn't,
and when you,
I don't wanna float the number, I've said it in years past, but you could be,
200,000?
or a million,
or
What?
million,
or a million.
1 million.
You do not know what this is, and I didn't say this in years,
Have
that's
large
why.
people.
You do not, the cost will be the cost based on the contamination.
Yes.
But there's no way to estimate unless you go through this process.
Yeah.
Just something we're gonna have to bond for probably next year.
I don't believe.
I think it was 2017 was
I
the,
think we.
if you read the letter, the last page on the letter, it discussed that we have an obligation.
Okay.
We have a current bond.
We have some money set aside.
We have a current bond. It has some funds in it to cover a portion of the initial proposal. I think it was from whatever was done several years ago. So there's about 15,000
Okay.
in current
If you
bond.
get a phone call at any time. Okay.
It left from the original testing.
Right, we would have to include that in the capital plan. It probably wouldn't be, it would probably be phased.
All right.
You wouldn't likely have the whole,
Okay.
you would know the
Yeah,
correct amount all at once.
Yeah, because the borings, everything here was probably a 3 or 4 month effort.
I don't mean that part, I mean, when you know what the magic number is.
Oh.
That's a multi-year process, or-
That could be 1 to 10 years.
Right.
Of when you would actually have that remediation equipment. And you've probably seen these at former gas stations where it's a large sort of, almost looks like a dumpster with a roof on it.
Yes.
A black box.
Yes.
All it is extracting groundwater, filtering it, and putting it back into the ground.
And there used to be funds available to do some of this stuff.
There were remediation funds, that has been exhausted for several years. There's a waiting list, but you have been on the waiting list for 10, 15 years out, even from coming close. Plus, we are not of the level of priority or importance where we are going to be selected on these funding source. We just have, an old tank that leaked, it was removed. Unfortunately, it's in soil, and we have some contamination of the soil on the site. But that contamination goes to register, will have to be cleaned up, and it's appropriate thing to do is clean it up. But right now, the use that's on the site is not being affected by this, but the state right now wants all contaminated sites to be addressed. And this is not doing a municipality that is facing canoes. There's other municipalities that will, through all public works or other facilities that are in the same position. And just the last thing is on the fields, the well was installed out there on the new recreation fields. That way we can get the original contractor for the fields to oversee and get that going for this growing season. And also we're going to oversee it in the fall.
Right.
Only from the electric.
Electric should be by the end of this week, from what I understand. The coordination with PSCG took some effort. Originally, PSCG was allowing the meter to be located at the building. Now, with actually dealing with the engineering department, most likely the meter to be closer to the entrance, off to the side, on its own little power. And that way, we don't have to. How do I want to phrase this? Because I love PSCG. We don't have to modify what was originally agreed to with PSCG to what is currently the opinion of how the installation should
So we're
be.
going to move right from the guardrail.
So pretty much from the guardrail, and we get the new service in. So now from the meter, originally the concept was pole, wire conduit owned by PSCG all the way up to the building where the meter was going to be. PSCG was going to maintain that line. With going from planning to the actual engineering department of PSCG, they've added on some requirements for that line if they are going to own it, which would be kind of expensive and difficult for the borough. In coordination with them, let's just move the meter back up to the pole. That way it's the borough's line is being installed with all national electric code requirements and also with our subcode officials' approval. But that way we don't have to incur additional costs. Except, I'm going to say that, except for one panel at the pole, which we're working on that cost right now. But comparatively to what we would have to do, we would end up having to replace all the conduit that was installed along that original line, which we saved a significant amount of money by having public works installed. So
Where we at on that deadline?
the deadline for, there was a June 10th deadline. I am going to report back on a different memorandum. I'm waiting on a contractor's schedule for what he is anticipating as a completion date. I was out on the site yesterday. I was on the phone with the contractor yesterday. I was beating my fist on the table yesterday, indicating that we need a little bit more response and we need more manning on the site. Also, I brought up some of the deficiencies that we noted, which we part of the punch list, slab, etc. We already have a letter out to the contractor indicating that their performance has been unacceptable. We're going to follow that up with another letter saying it's unacceptable. So will they meet the June 10th deadline? Absolutely not. How close to the June 10th is what my effort is now. And also to make sure everything's going in reasonable workmanship. Reasonable workmanship. I wish I could say it's going perfectly, but we are on the record. We do have the paperwork that we ever have to enforce any provisions of the contract for liquidating debts, etc. I don't believe that's going to be the case because we are voicing our concern very strongly.
What's up? We got to do it.
Just so everybody knows, the slab on the bathroom floor, when it was installed, they troweled it, but they didn't trowel quick enough, so there's discoloration, unevenness, and everything else. It's unacceptable. I have not been able to see it after it's been cured, it's covered with plastic, because it's putting the block up right now. Unless it has done a complete 180, my opinion is it has to be ripped up and replaced at the contractor's expense.
You reported that at the committee meeting. That
Yes.
was the recommendation.
Yeah.
And that was part of the report, was
Yeah,
that,
well, I didn't know how far you got.
yeah. So it's either going to be replaced,
Or I don't believe that an epoxy coating, such as a seacoat coating or anything else.
so your question was it replaced yet? And you're saying it's not replaced yet?
I don't know where. how-
Oh, I'm sorry, I misheard the question.
Oh.
It will be replaced as
Yeah.
part of the project. But they're gonna have to put that. And just like in anything else, if we just on a road job, with a piece of curb, it's not acceptable to rip out a piece of curb. section of asphalt fails, they have to come back and rip out the section of asphalt, take down the joint activity for without consent. Sorry to take so much time on engineering.
There's a lot going on this week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Old business? Public comments on the agenda items?
This portion of the meeting is open to the public. Anyone wishing to comment on any item that's going to be voted on, may come up to the microphone and give their name and address.
Phil Kraus, 131 Oak Avenue. On the culverts in town, who's responsible to clean the leaves and stuff?
This
like
portion
that?
of the meeting is only for agenda items
Agenda
at this
items.
point. That's at the Good and Welfare. Sorry about that, sir. Seeing no one wishing to speak on the agenda items, I move that we close the public portion.
All those in favor?
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
New business.
Resolution 1385 is a resolution authorizing the placement of property maintenance liens.
I make a motion to approve.
Roll call.
Mrs. Passier?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Root?
Yes.
And Mr. Capano?
Yes.
Move this resolution be adopted.
Resolution 1386 is a resolution authorizing adjustments to sewer accounts.
I make a motion to approve.
I second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Passier?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Root?
Yes.
And Mr. Capano?
Yes.
I move this resolution be adopted.
Resolution 1387 is a resolution to adopt the corrective action plan.
I so move.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Passier?
Yes.
Mr. Root?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
And Mr. Capano?
Yes.
Six ayes. Resolution 13. Resolution 1388 is a resolution granting 2013-2014 liquor licenses.
I make a motion, so move.
Roll call.
Mrs. Passier?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Root?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
And Mr. Capano?
Yes.
Six ayes.
Move this resolution be adopted.
Resolution 1389 is a resolution,
This is being tabled.
I need a motion to table.
I make a motion to table 1389.
I'll second it.
So you don't even vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So that'll be.
Resolution 1390 is a resolution in support of smart growth land use policies for the Borough of Runnemede.
I make a motion to approve.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move the resolution be adopted.
I make.
Resolution 1391 is a resolution approving the low bid for the reconstruction of Reed Avenue Phase 2 and Orchard Avenue.
I make a motion.
I second.
Roll call.
Mr. Capano?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Passier?
Yes.
Mr. Root?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
And Mr. White?
Yes.
I'm passing next time.
I move that this resolution be adopted.
Resolution 1392 is a resolution authorizing the purchase of law enforcement records management system and entering into a shared services agreement for group purchasing and operation of law enforcement records management system.
I so move.
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Passio?
Yes.
Mr. Root?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
And Mr. Capani?
Yes.
6 ayes. This one or two? It's not, I'll explain it to you. Resolution 1393 is a resolution authorizing a payment plan with the Camden County Municipal Joint Insurance Fund.
I so move. I second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Passio?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Root?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
And Mr. Capani?
Yes.
6 ayes. Resolution
We can
1395,
skip that.
I'll jump to.
Yes.
And Steve, I'm sorry, I didn't, the DOT, what are we authorizing for the DOT?
We're authorizing Box Associates to proceed with the design of the 2013 municipal aid program in accordance with our proposal.
That's the DOT, 200,000. I make a motion.
Is this not the one we just did, is it?
No, this is,
This is the next phase.
this was the money that we just,
Right.
between the two read projects.
Oh, it's the other reason.
This is in between.
This is why it's so confusing. There are many phases of
Yes.
reading.
Yes.
Yes. This is for the new 2013 DOT grant for $2,000. This is authorized Box Associates in accordance with our May 31st, 2013 proposal to proceed with design.
Yes.
Yeah.
I make a motion to allow Bach to do the design for rehab in the 2013 phase.
I'll second.
We just created it. We just created it.
Yeah, we added that because when we found out during the caucus meeting that we got the $200,000, remember Sis reported that, and we had to authorize, we don't,
200.
200,000, yeah.
Yeah.
And just allowing him to do the design for phase. Or second.
I did.
Okay,
She did, okay,
Yeah,
you
you
did.
did.
good roll call?
Mrs. Passio?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Root?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
And Mr. Capani?
Yes.
Resolution 1396 is a resolution authorizing the short-term improvements for the RYAA.
Short-term design.
Authorize the Box Associates to receive the design of the short-term improvements in accordance with April 30th, 2013.
I'm confused.
Yeah, this is the one. Anything I'm concerned about this, I'll have no objection to doing. I just don't know where these left money in the engineering budget to do this. And if you want to have the whole money, we vote on spending the money. Don't know what we have.
8,700.
Yeah, Rich, you want to jump in on that? I mean, I know we had $6,500 we just saved on the fence. I don't mean to jump on that money, but we can also put this as, well, we haven't done our 2013 bond. I think we were going to do that after we got done the budget
I
process.
think we'll look, see what we have. Do the next meeting. It's not.
Could we use it with the, I think Mr. Bach's argument is that we're going to try to get these handicap
Yeah, but-
sidewalks done. We should do it before the season starts.
I mean, we waited this long. I mean, well, you see, if you got the money.
We wait long on a lot of
I
things.
know, and we waited along on a couple other things, you know, because I said, see if we have the money before we spend it.
Well, I make a motion that we approve 1396 to allow for the design for the short term for the handicap parking.
So this is resolution 1396?
Yes.
I second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Passio?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. White?
No.
Mr. Root?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
And Mr. Capani?
Yes.
5 ayes on that. And now we have the first, we'll go to the first reading, we're going to skip the closed session. First reading of ordinance 1309. This is an ordinance amending certain provisions of the code. This is the cost for the zoning application.
I make a motion to adopt on first reading and advertise according to law with a public hearing to be held on the second day of July 2013 at a meeting beginning at 7 p.m.
I second that motion.
Have a roll call.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Passio?
Yes.
Mr. Root?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
And Mr. Capadas?
Yes.
6 ayes. Resolution 1310 is an ordinance amending the Borough of Runnemede Code, Chapter 50, Article 1, Section 50-1. This is amending the police composition.
I have a question on that. Mr. Wade, does it really he's not the mayor, I am.
You are the,
And I don't live a mile away. And you're saying I'm not here enough. I'm in the Borough Hall for 4 hours a day, and I'm a mile away from the Borough Hall.
it's not what this ordinance
I was, look, they need the mayor. You're saying that's not what it says, but when you read it, I can't see why they would call the mayor, the assessor from Cherry Hill to come in here.
says. Our assessor lives in Barrington.
The administrator, excuse me for words.
Okay.
But you've been trying to get rid of me.
I'm not trying to get rid of you.
Yes, you are.
This is a very simple ordinance.
No, it is, to you it is to get rid of me.
Last, at the caucus meeting, just to bring everybody up to speed, the police department there must be an appropriate authority for the police department. What this ordinance does is it establishes that we have one chief of police, one captain, 4 sergeants of the police, 10 patrolmen, and other such officers as the mayor and council may deem advisable to appoint from time to time. And then under B, it says the department shall report through the business administrator to the mayor and council, and its activities shall be reviewed by the Public Safety Committee of said borough council. The appropriate authority is defined by New Jersey Statute 48-14-118 for the Borough of Runnemede Police Department shall be the business administrator.
That's what you put in there.
I make a motion to adopt, oh, excuse me, we can make a motion in a second and have a discussion. That is the procedure, is a motion in a second and then discussion, and then we vote. So I make a motion to adopt on first reading as advertised according to law, with the public hearing to be held on the 2nd day of July, 2013, at a meeting beginning at 7 p.m. We need a second.
I second.
Now you can have discussion.
How did it read, the lower part, how did it read before you changed it?
How did it read before it changed? Okay.
Want me to read it?
Yeah, it's
The appropriate authority is defined by NJSA 14-118 for the Borough of Runnemede Police Department shall be the matter.
And then remember last week we went over 48. 48 gave us 4 different options. It gave us the mayor, it gave us a director, it gave us a member of council, it gave us an administrator if the borough has it, but there were some restrictions between the legislative and executive branch. As the director of personnel, this is something that I believe is important that our business administrator, when we created the business administrator, it was something that was, if you read our ordinance that defines the business administrator, it grants him that he oversees all these people, but you have a conflicting ordinance. You have one ordinance that created the business administrator and said that he has the power to do all this stuff, which we've all agreed in past councils have agreed to allow the administrator to work through us. And all this does is it clarifies the appropriate authority. It's just a
That's in
legal
your
thing.
eyes, not my eyes.
Okay?
But he still has to report to the mayor, correct?
Yes.
I just,
Yes.
exactly.
I don't care.
Yeah,
It's the way he's doing it.
in what
I
way?
mean, you were discussing all this before I knew anything about it. I mean, and now to me, that's sneaky.
If you approve the minutes, if anybody wants to look at the minutes from that we just
No,
approved
he
this
just
evening.
didn't say anything that night because I came in late.
Now, we did it in closed session, right? And we've done it at committees on several occasions.
Maybe,
And
was I
discussed.
here or was I in, and sleep at home because
I
of
don't
the
think
tree?
it was discussed that it needs to be changed from the mayor to the administrator. I don't recall that.
I
We didn't discuss
I
it.
mean, the director, I mean, this has been talked about for quite extensively.
Yeah,
Or was I here or wasn't
Basically,
I?
You weren't here. You weren't?
I
Yeah,
don't remember.
we just talked
the
about it.
ordinance
I-
was created, but this
Hey,
ordinance,
Joy,
excuse
Hold
me.
on, the Joyce is going to read the,
I can't read it, it's closed session.
oh, it's closed session, sorry.
Yeah.
Could you say
Yeah,
who was
that's
at,
what-
who was at the closed session?
Let me
Well,
clarify
this is-
something. Let me
April
clarify something. When I saw this ordinance, which was created in 1992, there was no business administrator. Since we have a business administrator. He is the one that the police department should report to because he's in charge. So we had to change the ordinance to update it. Not only did we update it for that factor, but we also updated it for all the different positions. So this is the new ordinance. This is created so that it's up to date. The other ordinance was 1992. It was not, it was very outdated. So we had to do this to bring this current.
Yes, the state of New Jersey, when they did write this up, other people had administrators, and they still said, put it down as the mayor.
Well, there's a choice.
You have a choice.
There's
Well, you have your choice.
Council?
Well, thank you very much, Nick.
Council, could you
God bless you.
help us out?
Well, I mean, the individual who essentially can be in charge, it can be one of many individuals, at least, through the interpretation of the statute, and ultimately it is council decision as to who.
Yeah, we know that. We know.
Yeah. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? Have a roll call?
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Passio?
No.
Mr. Root?
Yes.
Mr. White?
No.
And Mr. Kapadas?
Yes.
4 ayes, 2 no. Ordinance 1311 is an ordinance authorizing payment of appropriate compensation for the position of Plain Communities Coordinator. It also designates who they would report to.
I'll make a motion.
First reading.
Yes, to adopt on first reading.
You can read that.
And advertise according to law with a public hearing to be held on the second day of July at a meeting beginning at 7 p.m.
Okay, thank you.
I second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Passio?
Yes.
Mr. Root?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
And Mr. Kapadas?
Yes.
6 ayes.
I move this resolution be adopted.
Resolution 1312 is an ordinance authorizing payment of appropriate compensation for the position of Municipal Alliance Coordinator. This also designates who they report to.
I make a motion to adopt on first reading and advertise according to law with a public hearing to be held on the second day of July 2013 at a meeting beginning at 7 p.m.
I second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Passio?
Yes.
Mr. Root?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
And Mr. Kapadas?
Yes.
6 ayes. Ordinance 1313 is an ordinance establishing the position of account clerk in the Borough of Runnemede.
I make a motion to adopt on first reading and advertise according to law with a public hearing to be held on the second day of July 2013 at a meeting beginning at 7 p.m.
Roll call.
Mrs. Passio?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Root?
Yes.
Mr. Kapadas?
Yes.
6 ayes. And ordinance 1314 is an ordinance regulating the salaries of the employees of the Borough of Runnemede. This is the ranges for the Clean Communities Coordinator, the Municipal Alliance Coordinator, and the account clerk.
I make a motion to adopt on first reading and advertise according to law with a public hearing to be held on the second day of July 2013 at a meeting beginning at 7 p.m.
Seconded.
Roll call.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Passio?
Yes.
Mr. Root?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
And Mr. Kapadas?
Yes.
That's 6 ayes.
I make a motion that we pay the monthly bills and all other required charges.
I second that.
Roll call.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Passio?
Yes.
Mr. Root?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
And Mr. Kapadas?
Yes.
6 ayes.
This portion of the meeting is open to good welfare. If you have something you'd like to say, please move up, come up to the microphone, state your name and address.
Mayor and Council. Maria Panzarella, 12 South Oakland Avenue. Two things. Number one, I don't know who I bring it to, because I've always brought it here, but the grass on South Oakland and Clemens Bridge Road, it's my lovely neighbors. They cut the side, but they, 2 weeks ago when they left the front, it looks awful.
I wouldn't
And
buy it tonight.
it's awful.
I know.
And the second thing is, when you're coming, let's say from the ball fields down Bowers, I think it's Bowers, I don't remember, that you can't, it's a definite safety issue where there's bushes on the left-hand side, much like the ones that were on,
Coming up to where though?
if you're, it's a white house, on the, it is Bowers.
Bowers and Third?
Bowers and Third, it's on the corner, so, and you know what, I noticed it during the school hours, you know,
Take care of it.
when the kids are crossing, I don't go that way, I don't.
I'll talk to Keith will get on top of it, if he feels that it's obstruction, he'll go out and he'll.
Yeah, the ones that have been done made a huge difference, that one on Oakland and Clemens Bridge Road, it's, the mornings, it just makes it run smoother, so,
And the people at Clemens Bridge in Oakland have been cited over multiple things, or given warnings, let me rephrase
Reed?
that. Have given, no, in Oakland and
oh,
Clemens Bridge.
oh,
They've been spoken to about the condition of their property multiple times, so
gotcha.
Keith will put them back on the hill.
You mean my neighbors on my side of Clemens Bridge, yeah. I needed clarification real quick on, oh, and before I get that, since I'm talking, I'm sorry, Councilman Moore.
No, you didn't say.
The Hill Avenue fields that we're using for soccer, a couple of the coaches have mentioned that the grass, half of it's getting caught and half of it isn't. I have not been there. My kids do practice there, but they have indicated to me that half of it's getting caught and the other half isn't. So if you could just make mention that we do actively use those fields every night, so if they could put it.
Those are soccer fields, is that?
Mhm.
You said Hill Ave,
Mhm.
right? Okay.
Yeah, we're using Hill Avenue as
All right.
Hills,
practice
as
fields.
practice.
Yeah. For those of you that don't know, and I actually had the pleasure of speaking with Councilman Pasquio and Councilman, really? Anyway, Eleanor and Patty yesterday. One of our travel teams, Runnemede actually has 7 right now. One of our travel teams went to a Memorial Day tournament, which is why I wasn't at Memorial Day, because one of our teams made it to the championship and won. And that's a huge thing. I'm actually going to speak to Patty's recommendation, speak to Dan about an article for the Gloucester City News. It's huge. We played teams from, this tournament included, it wasn't a New Jersey tournament. It was held in New Jersey, but it was New Jersey, Delaware, New York. I mean, there were teams from all over, and it was a huge accomplishment. And I think, to put this town on the map in the sports world, it did that. But I think it's something that everyone here should be proud of as well. It was huge. It was huge. And it didn't end in a game, which is why we didn't make it to them. I was with Mr. Vance. We were all talking about how we were going to the Memorial Day celebration, and none of us made it. It was a game that didn't end because it ended in a 0-0 tie, and it continued to go into overtimes and then a shootout. So it was a long, beautiful morning, but long day, So I just think that, again, it's something to be proud of. It's something to speak very highly of when it comes to, the sports in our town. On that note, we have completed our tryouts for our travel soccer program, and we have a definite 7 teams come the fall. It's more than we've ever had. So my question to you is, I'm understanding that Beaver Branch Park will not be available for use in the fall. Okay. Will it be available in the spring?
Yes.
Okay.
So spring has always consistently been the projection for the fields.
Okay.
We were waiting to see how well this spring was going, but we know we have to oversee and we're going to need the fall
Okay.
for that road to take hold.
If you've been down there, you see.
I have been down there. I saw it. I get it. I just confirmation. Just know that since there was a question, will these fields be used? These fields will be used. For those of you that don't know, again, Runnemede's home fields right now are at TPAA, which is in Blackwood. It's embarrassing, So we will use them. I promise you that. Okay, I guess I appreciate it, but we will use them. We are using Hill Avenue, just to practice on, so it's huge. We use them, I promise.
There was a concern many years ago that the fields would not be used, and I think that's been clarified.
Yeah, we will use them. We have nowhere to, we've already requested Triton at this point. We're like reaching out. And the other thing is, it's already the first week of June. I need to remind everyone that August 1st starts our practices for
We need
soccer
that.
at the RY. We need lights. Or,
Look, it's right, you want me to show you? It's right
no.
here. I forgot, I just wrote it down. I'm going down there tomorrow
Okay.
to reach out. Once again, I'm going to reach out to PSE&G because they have repeatedly promised that they will come out, they will mount and put the poles in for free, and then somehow or another, it just kind of disintegrates. So I'm going to reach out. Once again, I'm going down to Public Works tomorrow, and I will have maybe John reach out. I've had Nick reach out multiple times, and the guy's always in agreement.
Mhm.
Absolutely, yes, we're willing, but then something kind of happens, and it just...
And then once the poles are up, we're gonna have electric put in?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
And you also gotta remember, we got daylight too. August 1st is, you know.
August is pretty-
But
it's when you
given
start,
the amount of
but
teams we have, unfortunately, we turn the lights on August 1st because some of the practices go beyond 9 is our problem.
You shouldn't be keeping kids out past 9.
Well, when they're 13 and 14, we do.
My kids, they're.
The curfew's 10, so we start practices at 9 and have them home before curfew. We've also put in host District 14 playoff all-star games, even for the age brackets that we don't have teams representing. And one of the first questions they ask is, do you have lights? And we're like, no, I'm sorry. So we may lose out on that. But just everybody keep in mind and keep an eye out for the district all-star teams that are playing, because Runnemede is very well represented in the 10-year-old age bracket. And it could be the same, conversation that we just had about our travel soccer team. So, hopefully. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Maria, I'm sorry. You're saying you need lighting. Is that going to be always, you're going to always have night games? Is this
Well,
going?
we always, right now, with the size of the soccer program for the last 3 years.
How many
we-
children are in the program?
Over 200. We had 274 represented in the fall last year. Obviously, with the travel program being so much bigger, it's well in excess of 300. Right now, just at Volts alone, in a little 3v3, we have 187 kids. So we have 27 teams just in a spring program. So the lights are necessary because obviously these teams have to practice, and we do the younger kids early, and then the older kids practice late.
And it's a
So-
fall school.
Right. Mhm.
Thank you, Maria.
Oh, so even though you'll be using the Green Acres, you'll be practicing at RY, so that you have the lights, is that?
I'm going to be honest with you, even when we have the fields at Green Acres, it doesn't alleviate us needing the RY. Even for the simple fact of just the games, because if that's a dawn till dusk park, we won't be able to have our games there that we schedule on, say, Wednesday nights at the RY. And again, the lights facilitate that one game that one game night where we host a few games, and then the practices each night of the week are going on there, every night. So, thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
Anyone else wish to speak? Please come up to the microphone.
Hello, Ira Livertor.
State your name and address.
Ira Livertor, 644 Williams Avenue. I got a question on one of your codes. You want me to read that out? Whole code?
Hopefully we can answer that.
It's on solid waste preparation for collection. It says, A, all garbage before being placed in containers shall be drained free from all liquids and shall be wrapped in several thicknesses of paper or placed in suitable bag or container. B, all garbage and rubbish shall be drained of any liquid before being deposited for collection. C, other refuse shall be stored in durable containers with closed fitting covers, except bulky refuse, which may be packaged and bundled together and firmly tied so to be easily handled, and not to exceed 4 feet in length nor 50 pounds in weight. No rubbish shall be stored in cardboard boxes. Under that, I got garbage shall be stored in approved containers with closed fitting covers. I called Keith about this today. He's telling me you can't put trash at the curb or trash cans. It has to be in the trash can. Is that correct?
What? I didn't
Can't
know.
put
You can't put trash out in the curb in trash bags.
That
I
is
do.
my understanding, from speaking to Keith, throwing a garbage bag at the curb and having it sit on the curb without it being in a trash can is a violation of the the ordinance, according to what I understand. In other words, just taking a plastic garbage bag out of your kitchen thing and putting it out at the curb without it being in a can.
You don't
is
use
a
cans?
violation.
I only put a
I
whole
use,
bag out.
I got 7 cans, they don't have lids, sometimes I use cans, sometimes I just throw the bags out. I mean, I got a whole laundry list, that's for another day.
I don't know.
To the best of my knowledge, that is the ordinance. The ordinance it is, I'm not saying that everyone complies, but to my knowledge, that's it. I mean, honestly, I don't know whatever you just read, but
Has
I've
the-
spoken to Keith, and that is.
Was the trash sitting out there for a long period of time?
I'm like on that target list.
Well, I think you
I
have a
think I
lot
was
of
getting
violations,
pictures.
right? You have a lot
I
of
got
violations
this-
over a several year period of time?
Yeah, which I'm pulling up that list.
You're getting close, right? It's being done? To get off the list of all these.
No, every time I fix something, I get a new list, that's the problem.
I don't know what to think.
I mean, I don't know, I mean, you ride around town, there's trash bags everywhere. And I'm getting cited for putting trash out, trash bags.
I do not.
I mean, can we look into that, can we ask? And
We can look at it, yes.
can we find out how many other people have been given a complaint for putting trash on the curb in the back? I mean, I don't put it out.
So you feel like you're being targeted
I'm
on
not
that?
being targeted.
Well, Mr. Liebertor's house, if I can speak freely, Harry, is, you know, he's in the middle of construction and things like that. It's been going on for several years. And I think that's one of the problems, is that because he's trying to work through getting things done, that I think you're getting complaints from other neighbors.
Well, that's the other-
We're complaint
How do you
driven.
go about finding out who makes the complaint?
But we're not allowed to do
You
that.
can't.
So they can't put an ordinance, because a lot of people wouldn't complain if they had to put their name down on paper.
But that's exactly why it is anonymous.
You never could, even when the county came in. The county would ask, I just swore to help. And you cannot give out the person's name you put a complaint in. Never.
Nope. I can tell you firsthand, and I'll put it right on the record. Somebody reported me for doing something, and I wasn't allowed to get the, I didn't know who did it.
Well, my feeling is if it's the same person over and over,
But if it's a violation, it's a violation.
That's it.
Now, your argument is that there's other people doing violations. You have every
there's a
right,
ton of violations.
you have every right to drive around the entire town.
I got better things to do with my time.
But that's the point, though. It is, you have the right to complain.
And I mean,
I think we can look at the ordinance, but I think there are some reasons why we ask people to put their trash in containers. But the fact that you have a laundry list of complaints, I think that the only way to, is you have to mitigate all those complaints, and then I think it'll be a lot easier to.
I understand that, but every time I fix one, they come up with another one. I mean, Keith and I can go to practice for the
Mr. Libertor, when you put it out in a plastic bag, does it get collected?
Yes. If it's not sitting, they come by, they pick it up, and take it.
She's talking about garbage, she's not
I'm
talking
talking
about.
about, you put a trash bag out in
Waste
the curb.
management will pick it up.
Oh, yeah, I don't have a problem when it gets picked up, I have a problem with, I'm
Right.
being cited because I put my trash down. That's my problem.
Yeah.
That's what I'm having an issue with.
I mean, you have to show up in front of the judge, is that a,
No, not yet, I mean, there's other things on here that if I take care of, you know.
it's just a warning at this point?
Right, I mean, I got cited for chickens, they've been going for a year.
Well, you should have had chickens.
Yeah, I got chickens at Easter one year, and I kept them, and then I got rid of them. It was, you know,
It's a borough. So.
I understand that, but
But it's
what I'm
on
saying
there.
is I got cited for them, and they've been going for a year. So somebody's acting on old information, so I know I was targeted, it's in black and white.
Can I ask the council, is there any way of policing Mr. Knight? Is he,
I don't think it's,
You know,
I think it's.
Mr. Knight is the-
Yeah.
well, is he the,
He's probably going off of,
A
people
phone
from
call.
complaints or a phone
No,
call or somebody.
he is, I told him that.
He has to follow it.
well, obviously, all right, he's getting information, or he followed up.
Somebody's
Chickens.
getting them.
He's getting information that's saying he has chickens, he's no longer has chickens, so Mr. Knight didn't do his
But we
homework.
don't know all the history of these complaints. Harry, how long have you been getting complaints? How long have you been getting these citations?
I've probably been getting complaints about 5 years back. The only time I didn't get complaints was when I worked for the borough for 6 months. When I got fired, I got a complaint 7 days later. The day I got fired. That tells you I got a bullseye. I mean, obviously.
Somebody holds a grudge.
But is the issue with the chickens still on a current complaint?
It's on here listed that there's none present. So he did know that. That's-
You gotta be careful, you know, we're not
But-
reading everything, we
I mean,
don't.
Well, you know, they sell green trash bags for people to put trash out, and you're not supposed to use them.
For
I mean,
recycling.
if Runnemede's gonna say that we gotta put them in cans, shouldn't Runnymede supply a can? If you're gonna tell me I gotta have an approved container, and I'm getting slated to put my trash out in the
I
back,
don't have a lid beside you.
shouldn't you town supply cans? I mean, seriously.
I don't know if that's necessarily the case, because several of my neighbors put out garbage without lids, and they never get cited.
Well,
But that's-
We can review the ordinance, we don't know what year the ordinance,
Seriously.
one lady called me up because she got cited because she didn't have lids on.
we
The
can look at
ordinance
it.
is, it is supposed to be in a can with a lid, that's what the ordinance states, I don't know when the ordinance went into place, I mean,
Last
that
year.
ordinance.
No,
Yeah.
not begin.
Or the one from last year was, you can't be visible from the street.
That was, if you're on corner property.
That's on the.
That's
on
on-
corner
That's
property.
only
I'm not on
corner
corner.
property.
No, no,
Front.
Any
Oh, I'm
body's
sorry,
frontage.
I apologize, corners were exempt from that.
Come on, keep order, keep order. We're losing order. We can look at it. That's all we can do. But
Just want to check
I mean,
it.
I know I'm in the crosshairs constantly.
I would recommend to get everything done on that
I'm
list.
working on it,
That's
but
fine.
this kind of stuff delays it when you're pedaling around, fussing around, you know. I can't put my trash to the curb in the back.
I
I
don't
mean,
understand.
seriously. That's just,
But these could be run-on citations, that's the problem.
but they are, every time I turn around, like I said, I'll
5 years.
jump through hoops and fix this. And a couple months from now, be another list, from another, wherever they get their information.
Well, I will say this, we cite people for not cutting their grass all the time. And then we send them a bill for $200 to go cut their grass. And the following year, we have to cite them again to cut their grass. And they say, well, why are you citing me? You're supposed to tell me to cut my grass again. They actually complain that we're not reminding them to cut their grass. You don't have to remind anybody
I don't mind
to cut their grass and do all that stuff.
My problem is, I mean, you ride around, how many people put bags in? That's my argument.
I'm not familiar with that particular ordinance. I think the public works director will look at it.
I'll look into it.
All right. Thank you.
Anyone else have anything to say? Come up to the microphone, give your name and address.
Did you want to? No?
See
We'll
you.
clean the culverts. We will.
Motion to close good and welfare portion, please.
I make a motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We don't need any closed session, is that correct?
You did for that.
No, I don't think we need to do it, is that, we don't have to do it. Yeah.
Two issues we discussed here.
Okay. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Aye.